Na kama kucommit crime ni handshake na kusema tuko kwa hiyo building bridges, we are guilty as charged. And Jim, I want you to advise people here. You are the legal. Section 148 of this Constitution, subsection 5. It says nobody can run for deputy president for more than 2 terms. Ibinjo. And why does it say that? Because 145 also says nobody can run for president for more than 2 terms. And this presidency is a pair. Ama namna gani Jim? If the president is not here, who is the president? Senior deputy. If for whatever reason the president is not able to carry out his functions, who becomes president? Can the president sack the deputy president? Can he? So in effect, if he automatically becomes president without going for the mandate from the mwananchi, what mandate does he have? Si ni ile walichaguliwa nayo. Kwa sababu ikiwa wewe uko kwa hiyo for 2 terms, then that is why 148 says you can't run again. Na Jim, I want an advisory opinion. Na tutaenda mpaka Supreme Court. Sisi hatucheki na watu. All I can tell you, I'm very happy because for us, at least now, tunaona watu wameanza kusoba. Si hata juzi wamesema they don't mind the nomination, si ndio? Na wakishindwa watasupport yule atachukua. Sasa hakuna kujifiga kivua.
David Murathe speaking in Doluo. Ay. This guy must be serious. David Wakairu Murathe goes deep into Siaya and speaks Luo. Iwinjo. Now the clip I've just played was at the funeral of Raphael Tuju's late brother, Kefa Tuju. And this game being played by Murathe is very strategic. Late last year, you'll remember, immediately after Christmas, he spoke to the Luya community in Maragoli at the Maragoli annual festival. Yesterday, he spoke to the Luo community in Siaya. Now, the same function, Raphael Tuju spoke after these controversial remarks by Bwana Murathe, said that Bwana Murathe is not speaking on behalf of Jubilee. Now, wait a minute. Bwana Murathe is the vice chair of Jubilee. But we're being told the vice chair of Jubilee is making his own personal, controversial remarks that may be contrary to the party position. In my view, go tell that to the birds. Now, in the classroom of my late political lecturer, he drummed the following into me. You cannot analyze politics without understanding the history and the geography. And I've stuck to that. And so, whenever I get slightly confused, I rush back to history. And I can sense you're not fully convinced about who Murathe is talking for. Some of you believe Murathe is talking in his personal capacity. Nothing to do with the Jubilee, nothing to do with the Jubilee High Command. Let me give you a bit of history. In 1966, when the KANU High Command wanted to remove Jaramogi Oginga Odinga from the vice presidency, they used a man called Tom Mboya. And as Tom Mboya's attacks against Jaramogi Oginga Odinga escalated, Jaramogi's team were sure that this was personal. It had nothing to do with the party. You see, Mboya and Jaramogi had a history. They were rivals. They were very bitter rivals. And so the feeling was that Mboya was gunning for the vice presidency. He was not satisfied with being a mayor cabinet minister, as ambitious as Mboya was. Or, by the time they realized this thing was being crafted and organized right from inside State House, it was too late. It was too late to craft a counter strategy to deal with these Mboya attacks. Second example, there used to be a vice president called Professor Josephat Karanja. My apologies, actually Dr. Josephat Karanja. He was appointed immediately after Moi removed Kibaki from the vice presidency, and before Professor George Saitoti was appointed to the vice presidency. Dr. Josephat Karanja is not very well known because he barely served a year as Vice President of the Republic of Kenya. Again, the case was similar to what happened in 1966. The president no longer wanted to retain his vice president, and he didn't want to remove him because in those days the president could remove a vice president. In our new constitution, the president can never sack the deputy president, as you've heard in the clip. So, who did State House use? A firebrand Nairobi legislator called David Mwenje. Now, Mwenje's style of politics was very similar to what we have today from a man called Ferdinand Waititu, the governor for Kiambu. People who shoot from the hip and ask questions later and talk in the language of the masses. Now, Dr. Josephat Karanja was a former vice chancellor of the University of Nairobi. Very, very intellectual man. The choice of David Mwenje to oppose Karanja, or rather to deal with Karanja, in my view was ingenious. Because the late Dr. Josephat Karanja had what people call intellectual pride. You know that thing of nimesoma sana, unaniambia nini? Wewe umefika class gani? Loose translation, I'm highly educated. Who the are you? And so very predictably, Dr. Josephat Karanja took the bait. And as he took the bait, he completely forgot to sit down and do some very deep thinking and ask himself, since when, during the Kano days, since when did a mayor MP, an assistant minister, attack the vice president of the Republic of Kenya? Since when? And so yet again, history repeated itself because Dr. Karanja assumed this was personal until it was too late. Yeah. And David succeeded in slaying Goliath. Yeah, David Mwenje succeeded in slaying the Goliath vice president, Josephat Karanja. So the question is, will David, this time Murathe, succeed in slaying the Goliath, deputy president of the Republic of Kenya? But I need to add something here. Don't for a moment think I'm comparing the late David Mwenje, with all due respect to his memory, with David Murathe. These are two very different individuals. Bwana Murathe, what many Kenyans may not know, is a very polished man, experienced in politics. He's a previous legislator. And that's not all. He went to Nairobi School, together with people like Musalia Mudavadi, high-cost, prestigious school, mahali watoto wanafunzwa kuongea Kiingereza na mapua. Loose translation, where people are taught to speak the Queen's English. But granted, this third time, the situation is a bit different. Because I can assure you, the DP-Ruto camp has not been caught napping. Yeah, like in the case of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and in the case of Josephat Karanja. They are very alert. They know exactly what is happening. And they also know exactly where these attacks are coming from. However, you can be sure the objective is the same. Only that this time round, what is being played here is very sophisticated, complex chess, political chess. You know, in the game of chess, there are small pieces called pawns. They're powerless. You know, as the name suggests, they're just pawns. And if you're very inexperienced in chess, you'll pay attention to what the pawns are doing. Only for a queen to come from behind, or another powerful piece like the bishop to come from behind and checkmate you. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying Bwana David Murathe is a pawn. He's not. is a vice chair of the Jubilee party. He is also one of the most powerful, most trusted, most influential advisors of the President of the Republic of Kenya. This is not a pawn. But what I'm driving at is the political game being played here. Let me be clearer. Bwana Murathe says he wants to go up to the Supreme Court, to bar DP-Ruto from vying for the presidency, because he has run the 2 terms the Constitution allows. Mr. Murathe's argument is that DP-Ruto was part of a team, and a team cannot vie a 3rd time. And so, because he was part of the Huru team, both of them must retire from politics in 2022 together. Now, for effect, Bwana Murathe during his speech even includes Jim. You know who Jim is? Jim Orengo. Moto ya kuotea mbali sana when it comes to legal matters. Translation, a legal guru, especially when it comes to constitutional law. However, if you look at this thing more deeply, Bwana Murathe doesn't have an argument. And I can assure you, no Supreme Court in Kenya or out of Kenya is going to bar DP-Ruto from running for the presidency simply because he was deputy to Uhuru Kenyatta. However, this is a pawn move. Military strategists will call it a diversionary attack or an attack to divert attention. You can be very sure, and you can take this to the bank, that there's another major attack coming, the real one, not this joking one, not this one designed to divert attention. Now, I appreciate the vast majority of Kenyans have not had the privilege of playing the game of chess. So let's move into boxing. If you're a boxer and you have a lethal right hand, that knocks out an opponent, first of all, you will start by keeping your opponent busy with your left hand. Quick jabs with your left hand, to keep him busy defending with your left hand, while you prepare your right hand for that huge knockout blow. Now, that is precisely what I mean in this case. Now, in 1966, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was a very emotional person. Quick to anger, which is exactly what DP-Ruto is. In case you didn't know, DP-Ruto's quick temper is legendary. People know about it. In fact, he is the only politician who dared to fight on the grounds of State House during the Moi days. Yes, he floored a legislator from the Rift Valley. A man old enough to be his father, he floored the old man with a punch. He just couldn't take it anymore from the old man because he said the old man was spoiling his name, going around telling people that DP-Ruto, or at that time William Ruto, was a conman. In other words, Ruto just lost it. So there's evidence. The man has a temper. Now, the problem with emotional people is that they allow these emotions to cloud their judgment. Because when you get emotional, you stop thinking. It's human nature. And you act, triggered by your emotions rather than your brains. And this is exactly what happened with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, because he resigned in a huff. And by doing so, ended his political career forever. Because in 1966, when Jaramogi was resigning, he was not a young man. And by the time he came back into politics in the 90s, he was a very old man, almost senile. In my view, that is not a political comeback. Although what he did had a great impact, in removing Moi from power, in executing the second liberation of Kenya, which was very, very important for us as a nation. So his contributions cannot be downplayed. However, as an individual, the best years of his life were over. Politics passed him by. I believe things would have turned out very differently had the man not been such an emotional man. Now, although DP-Ruto is emotional, he is not Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. These are two very different individuals. However, in my view, the nature of his character so far is not helping him yeah, in his strategy in this political fight of his life. In my view, a less emotional politician would have done better thus far, yeah, in this anti-DP-Ruto war. Still, yeah, the nature of this attack, the way it's going, the strategy I see here, the hidden hands involved, my very controversial view, and I could be wrong, is that the end game here is to have DP-Ruto do exactly what Jaramogi Oginga Odinga did in 1966. The idea is to force him to resign, to force him out of Jubilee. And the way things are going politically, that may not be such a bad idea. That may not be the disaster most of us may want to imagine. Why? Because I believe DP-Ruto would be more effective in his 2022 campaign outside Jubilee than within Jubilee. You know, a regular commentator here on this channel, a man I really respect, although we rarely agree, a man from the Rift Valley, yeah, and therefore we can assume a man on the ground, yeah, even if he's outside Kenya, he's on the ground because he has relatives in the Rift Valley, he knows how they are speaking, etc., etc. Now, that friend of mine made a very interesting comment here. It was brief, but explosive. He said this succession battle is going to divide the Rift Valley for the first time. I'm paraphrasing what he said. That's not exactly what he said, but that was the implication. Yeah. Now, a split Rift Valley vote has never happened. But if he is right, then the strategies, yeah, Bwana Murathe and company, have been successful. Because that is exactly what they've been after. How do we know this? We know this because of the way Gideon Moi has been brought into prominence. Gideon Moi is from the Rift Valley. And the reason why I'm saying DP-Ruto may be better off, yeah, outside Jubilee is that it is impossible, yeah, for him to deal with the vote of Rift Valley being divided, yeah, and to deal with the Gideon Moi issue while he's inside Jubilee. But outside Jubilee, it is much easier, yeah, for him to be a rallying point for the entire Rift Valley. Now, my apologies, that is very deep. That is for deep political thinkers. And by the way, nobody has stopped you from being a deep political thinker. Now, for the sake of those who are convinced that I hate DP-Ruto and that it's clouding my judgment when analyzing the political situation, here is a food for thought for you. I am really looking forward to a response from the DP-Ruto camp to these attacks that will be effective. So far, their responses have not had any effect, or they've had very little effect, including one of the latest ones, yeah, where we had the DP-Ruto camp say that if the attacks continue, yeah, if this disrespect against their man continues, then they will reveal the real contents of the server. Though, of course, referring to the mysterious server, the server whose real results have never been revealed, yeah, the real results of the 2017 presidential election. However, that tactic clearly fell flat on its face. Kenyans are not interested. In fact, some Kenyans are saying, we already know what is inside that server. You're not going to tell us anything new. So we are not interested. Now, I know that kind of response shocked some Kenyans, okay, but actually it shouldn't. In 1997, the opposition got the same response from Kenyans. And the opposition at that time were people like Mwai Kibaki, Raila Odinga, Charity Ngilu, Kijana Wamalwa, etc., etc. Now, before those elections, Kenyans had urged the opposition to unite and present one candidate against President Moi, yeah, and therefore easily defeat him and remove him from State House. However, everybody wanted to be president, yeah, and therefore they didn't agree, and they went into those elections separately. And predictably, as an opposition, as a united opposition, together, they got more votes than Moi. But because they're operating separately, Moi won. Yeah, he got less votes than all of them combined, but he got more votes than any of them, and he won. So after the election results were announced, they ganged up together, all the opposition people who had refused to united, yeah, and they called a press conference and told Kenyans that the election was rigged, and they appealed to Kenyans for support. Kenyans were not interested. We told you guys to unite before the election, you refused, you're all greedy for power. Kila mtu adil na hali yake. Yeah, that's the Kenyan voter for you. They can lose interest very quickly in something that only yesterday they were very interested in knowing. The next day they're not interested. Even the other recent response from DP-Ruto himself, where he said he's ready to go for nominations, has not had any impact. In fact, Murathe quoted it in his speech at the funeral in Siaya. Yeah, he said that it's good some people now are sobering up. Yeah, they've stopped chest thumping. They're now saying they're ready for nominations. And Murathe said that is very good. Which means, according to me, that this attitude of the deputy president, yeah, that my march to State House is unstoppable. Remember what the DP-Ruto camp was saying? The march of DP-Ruto to State House is unstoppable. You know, very arrogant. Hiyo kitu inaonekana iliuma Murathe. Translation, that attitude really rubbed Bwana Murathe and company the wrong way. Yeah, it really provoked them. Actually, the truth is, it has rubbed most Kenyan voters the wrong way. It is not the right way to go about it. Anyway, my point here is that that response did not have any impact. And I'm still looking forward, and I'm hopeful that the DP-Ruto camp, yeah, will have a response soon that will have some impact, yeah, and get some excitement into this contest that Kenyans are watching, yeah, with fascination. Come on, DP-Ruto camp, don't make this thing boring. Do something. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.